If Disney villains had won. Lady Tremaine from Cinderella. Lady Tremaine's whole goal was to marry her daughters into the royal family. Of course, since Anastasia and Drizella's feet were too big for Cinderella's glass slipper, Lady Tremaine's chances of victory were dashed the second Cinderella showed up at the ball. So, let's say that she successfully keeps Cinderella from attending. Maybe she locks her away in her room like she did towards the end of the first movie. Of course, this isn't the only thing that Lady Tremaine would need to do to be victorious, as she would also have to prevent the fairy godmother from interfering. This could be possible since in the third movie, Lady Tremaine stole the fairy godmother's wand and turned her into stone. So, let's say she does that too. After Anastasia and Drizella show up at the ball, Lady Tremaine would notice Prince Charming's repulsed expression upon meeting them. She would discreetly use the wand to hypnotize him into falling in love with Anastasia, which is also something she does in the third movie. Charming would fall under the spell and immediately propose. While moving out of the chateau, Lady Tremaine would notice Cinderella and realize that she enjoyed having her around to torment. With this in mind, she would decide to bring Cinderella along to continue her forced servitude. In the castle, life might be a bit better for Cinderella since she would at least have the emotional support of the other servants. However, she would remain miserable overall since she would still be abused and manipulated by her stepfamily. Although since she is living in his castle, Cinderella would be bound to meet Prince Charming sooner or later, and there is a chance that the two could still possibly fall in love with each other. However, I think if Lady Tremaine noticed this, she would find some way to ruin their relationship, most likely by exiling Cinderella like she tried to do in the third movie. However, there is one more factor that Lady Tremaine would need to take into account. Like her fairy godmother, Cinderella's mouse friends, Jacques and Gus, were crucial to her success in both the first and the third movie. It would be tough for Lady Tremaine to get rid of them, firstly because she would be unaware of their existence. She hasn't even met them in any of the movies. However, let's say that somehow she does find out that Cinderella has talking mice as friends. Her first move would be to use Lucifer to get rid of them, which would be a lost cause given how incompetent he is as a predator. She would then try one of two methods, either have them trapped and killed by another servant, or just use the magic wand to get rid of them. Now without her fairy godmother or mouse friends to rescue her, Cinderella would live a lonely and depressing life, far away from the man she loves. Then there's Anastasia. In the third movie, she is in on Lady Tremaine's plan to put a spell on Prince Charming to make him fall in love with her, and her guilt over deceiving him is what allows her character arc to develop. However, in the alternate timeline for this video, Anastasia would not realize that the prince is being hypnotized, since Lady Tremaine's spell would be cast in a discreet and spontaneous manner. Because of this, Anastasia would be fully convinced that the prince loves her. She would marry him without second thought, and with nothing to feel guilty about. She would forever remain the spoiled brat she was in the first movie. After Cinderella's exile, the prince would be trapped in a loveless marriage with Anastasia for the rest of his life. Since his father only wanted him to marry a princess so that he could have grandchildren, Anastasia would bear his offspring, which would not be a pleasant process for the prince. Thanks to the influence of Anastasia, Drizella, and Lady Tremaine, the prince's children would grow up to be vain, spoiled brats, a far cry from the gentle grace of their friendly and loving step-aunt.